It is so beautiful. Awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in presentation mode, and I will let Mike start us off.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Callanan. I'm the Core Outreach Program Manager. I'm with Fadi Elhayek, the Program Director. We are doing a core outreach in service for you. Next slide.
Mike, do you see my whole screen or is it like black around the main screen?
It's black around the main screen with notes area, no, area for notes at the top.
I don't know why it's doing that. Let me just
That's bigger.
back to slideshow from beginning. There we go. All right, thanks, Mike. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay. Next slide. You started the recording.
Yep. So reminder for everyone, this is recording.
This is recording. And then the founding partner is San Jose State University School of Information. Next
Thank you,
slide.
San Jose State University.
What we do, we are housing focused street outreach. We're linked to health and behavioral health. We have a longstanding relationship with healthcare for the homeless. We're direct placements into shelters and warming centers. We are the access points for the Concord, Brookside, and Delta Landing, as well as the Concord Warming Center, which has 16 to 20 spots. And then we also have 7 spots at the Grip Warming Center in Richmond that has 20 spots total. We're a CAM and abatement support by emailing core@cchealth.org. We do transportation through appointments such as DMV, GA, SSI, doctor's appointments, or any other appointments we make for them. For connection to community resources, benefits, legal services, employment, we do housing placement. The teams help the clients in the field with housing applications and getting on housing lists, as well as getting them connected to CalAIM and CalAIM navigation services. Next slide. Who we are. We have 4 dispatchers. Then we have outreach specialists and care coordinators. We currently have 19 teams and a Tri-City team coming July 1st, which will be San Pablo, El Cerrito, and All County. We have 3 program coordinators that are under myself, the program manager, and then Fadi Hayek, the program director, is over all of CORE. Next slide. Our core team structure is the program director is over the program manager, which is over the program coordinator, three program coordinators. The 3 program coordinators are over various teams, such as dispatch and relief, East County and Central County, BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, HTAP, Housing Disability Advocacy Program, the Youth and Families Team, Public Works Team, West County Team, Transitional Age Youth, the TAY Team, and the evening teams. Current cities contracted teams are Concord, Martinez, Pittsburgh, Pleasant Hill, Richmond, San Pablo, and Walnut Creek. And then I'll let Fadi take the next slides.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for giving us a foundational overview of what we do as core outreach. And I'll piggyback on what Mike shared and say, we are the mobile street outreach team in Contra Costa County, and we're under essentially the county's homeless programs, health, housing, and homeless services, and which is H3. So H3 has many different programs, and core being street outreach is one of them. And Mike, he highlighted that we have 19 teams currently, and I think we're going up to 22 or more in the next fiscal year in a couple weeks here, around 50 staff, many different teams. So just wanted to highlight some of the specialties here. We have a contract with BART. So we have a team of 2 Monday through Friday who frequent the BART stations throughout Contra Costa County. And all of these teams, they definitely can serve the libraries as well. And we're going to get specifically to libraries in this presentation. But we have the HSP program, which is a team that is specifically focused on working with families or minors, families with minors. Has to be a head of household adult who have CalWorks or Housing Works, which is a monthly benefit through EHSD, and family resources. We have our HDAP team, the Housing and Disability Advocacy Program team. They work with individuals who have a vulnerability or disability criteria, which makes them eligible. And if they're receiving general assistance, which is like CalWorks, but for individuals, If they're receiving general assistance and have an SSI application, they're eligible to work with this team. And ERF teams, right now we have one, we might have more next year. Where they're specifically focused on working with large encampments that are going to be abated and providing the care for getting folks out of those encampments and into shelter or doing family reunification or into housing. Our public works teams, they work in unincorporated and creek areas. A strong relationship with our public works department and doing trash pickup and needle pickup and helping unhoused individuals identify any unsafe hazards or things like that out there in the elements. Our Core Plus teams, we have three teams of two, and they're specifically dedicated to working with medically acute individuals who come in and out of hospitals or emergency rooms or psych emergency. And we do ride-alongs with healthcare for the homeless Mondays and Fridays. Definitely a bridge to our hospital partners. So if one were to want to get in touch with CORE, if you're calling as you would call 211 option 3. We operate 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 11 on the dispatch, though we have teams represented till midnight. If you're an unhoused individual or calling from a community, it would be option 1. If you were a TAY, transitional aged youth from 18 to 24, or a family with children, then you press option 2. You press option 3 if it's from a hospital or it's a hospital discharge. Option 4 is for law enforcement partners, although we have contracts with many who have a direct line of communication to us. They can also call this option here and be directed to their team that would serve their jurisdiction. Or if one is calling from jail or corrections or a probation or parole officer. Additionally, if somebody's in a behavioral health crisis or needs crisis support, we transfer them to anytime, anywhere, any place, which is Contra Costa County's crisis response. We call it A3. Or if one is calling for healthcare for the homeless resources like mobile health clinics, it's option 7. So all of this applies to the work and partnership that we do with the libraries that are throughout Contra Costa County. We wanted to give you an overview and a foundational understanding of what CORE does, because it really all does apply to our library partners. You know, there have been specific activities with the libraries, such as there were some recurring meetings called Coffee and Conversation at the Concord Library here in the county, where we would invite community members or service providers to get to know what we as H3 and what CORE does, and just to get some input from the community there about the resources available and the good, the bad, the challenges, the successes. So that was coffee and conversation. Mike here, our program manager, he's done outreach to just about all the libraries in the county to reach out to their leadership and just build that bridge and that connection to say, this is what we do. We operate 7 days a week. We know that a lot of unhoused individuals do frequent and are around libraries. So this is our contact information. You can directly contact management and leadership. We do get stretched throughout the county in serving so many individuals, but we do like to prioritize our partnerships and try to prioritize those dispatches. Also, there was a recent resource fair at the Concord Library, and these are pictures of the Concord Library, where one of our program coordinators was there with a table and a lot of individuals. They came and got some donations and just learned about what CORE does. So yeah, really at this time, wanted to just, open it up to questions and to say, if anybody has any questions about what we do specific to serving unhoused individuals at libraries, or definitely open to that at this time. And then, Mike, do you have anything that you want to share or to add on to that regarding libraries?
No, I think you covered it very well. The libraries, we've been a good partnership with them. I did visit them and meet up with the liaisons for the areas and go over to how to get a hold of us and how to get a hold of our teams. Left some 2-on-1 cards and flyers.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
No questions in the chat. Any questions, anybody? Teresa?
Um, I don't see any questions in the chat. I do see something from Laura McLean. She says, I wish our county had something like this. Alas, we do not. Um,
And then it says, what is the library staff role in working with the core? They would basically they would contact 211 if they have an individual in the library, and if they wanted services, they're open to services. They call 211 and then hit at one of those extensions, and then they would get a core team, and then we send a core team out to the library to meet with them, offer services.
Exactly. And Mike, you really covered this list here that you provided for us. Any like we've always had a great rapport with our library staff. So doing warm handoffs or however they feel comfortable, or if they have a rapport with the library patron. And then we would just look at, what is the next step for that individual? Are they open to shelter? Is there a shelter bed? And they are few and far between. Is there one of the warming center beds that turns over every night? Do we want to find out maybe where they're staying close by? Maybe build a connection, get them transportation, stuff like that. Maybe get them connected to a mobile health van as well.
We have it in the chat from Kimberly Buckley, which is she works at the Concord Library. She says, "Give a shout out to Core. We love Core."
Awesome.
One of our liaisons there.
Awesome. Thank you.
so I have a question. This is Teresa. Do you find that you work with regular that you regularly see certain individuals that in your experience, do you see certain individuals on a regular basis? Because I know that sometimes the unhoused, they visit certain libraries, um, and I was wondering if that allows you to establish certain relationships that you may not able you may not be able to do otherwise.
We have different types of clients that like some that actually interact with us a lot, and we see them a lot and see them often. We build the relationship. Sometimes that relationship can be made on the first day. Sometimes that relationship can take a year or two before they open up and they want to do the intake and do the get connected to services. Um, we have all kinds of clients with the libraries. We do see people. We have our Concord team works with the Concord Library, and they also see the clients there, and they'll meet the clients there and do work with them at the library, do intakes and do referrals and things like that.
Do you find that regularity or that familiarity allows you to do more outreach or more effectively?
It does just do more effective outreach because once we get out there, we have a place to talk to them. They're in a comfortable place usually with where they are, so we can talk to them and meet with them and build relationship and start offering them services. The faster that they open up to us, the faster we can open them up to services.
Mm. I imagine some familiarity or regularity allows for. Um, I know that sometimes patron and library staff interactions can get tense. And I know that if I've heard that if a patron is familiar with library staff, de escalation tactics work better.
We do have
Has that been your experience?
yes, our people are a lot of our people have lived experience, and they also are trained in de-escalation skills and motivational interviewing. So they're trained to elicit out the answers that we're trying to get them towards, um, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah. And like, it's kind of like we also train them to understand like If it's a crisis, then that's going to be a mobile crisis response, right? The A3, where like we can we're equipped to deal with escalation to a certain degree, and just like Mike said, we're in safety trainings, and we teach them to be have the soft skills motivational interviewing, but sometimes it gets to a certain level where okay, this is above what our specialty is, and maybe we need a licensed clinician that's in partnership with a police department if they need that level of crisis de-escalation. But oftentimes it doesn't get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a comment in the chat from Laura McLean. We have no, she writes, we have no coordinated effort for working with those experiencing homelessness. For the most part, it is through various religious organizations. The library acts as a day shelter in a lot of ways, but we're super limited in what we can do to help. And we have issues with vandalism, camping on the property, etc. And she continues, trauma-informed nonviolent approaches is what we're trying to learn and or teach to staff.
Absolutely. Yeah, that there's some challenges there that are really hard as well when the cost of affordable housing is so unaffordable, and the cost for housing is so high. And the shelter beds compared to how many unhoused individuals there are, it's so low. So yeah, I definitely sympathize and empathize with individuals who kind of use the library as a day shelter and somewhere to be. I just want to also throw out there's first Contra Costa County specifically, there's the Concord Service Center where folks can drop in. And then one could call 211 option 3 for that. And then there's also in West County, I think there's a drop-in center there at Grips. Yeah, it's really hard, and sometimes it becomes, kind of a law enforcement issue when vandalism is happening, right? Um, and yeah, we have a couple different organizations that we work with for motivational interviewing. One of them is called the Maeda Institute. And we're actually planning some thorough motivational interviewing trainings for staff. So if anybody's interested, I could share their contact info because we're actually hiring them to provide some in-person trainings for us.
So I see some comments in the chat about social workers in the library. Do
Mhm.
you find that your organization can work with social workers in the library often or frequently or very rarely?
So I don't know of the libraries here having social workers per se. We work with the liaisons if they call us to work with people. It says what does one question says what does a encampment abatement support look like? That would be if if you're abating an encampment, you have a big encampment around near you. You would contact us before you abate and before you post. And we try to go offer services and see who's open to beds and shelters. But again, we work with a lot of them doing the applications and everything from the street because of the fact that the shelters there's only 30% of the beds for the whole area. So we have limited shelter beds. They've taken the access or taken the time limits off the shelters. So now that it used to be 120 days and then they would filter out, but they don't do that anymore. So we have limited shelter beds that become available.
That's right, and I'll just throw out there that it would be the most ideal if there were social workers at the hospital, and we have a great relationship with our liaisons, and we have, I think, a very effective relationships. But even better if there were social workers at hospitals. I think we would establish those relationships as well. It would be helpful.
I see Heather said that we've added social worker students to our main downtown branch for a few days a week to help refer patrons to available services. Looks like you guys are from all over the place, not just our area. So I see somebody from LA. I work in LA, where there's housing is big problem due to lack of and some of the shelters are in such bad conditions for the patrons referred to back to the streets. But Our shelters have been remodeled over through COVID, so they all have sleep stations. They're more person friendly. They've been very all remodeled, so they're all very nice. And you have like your own little sleep station with your own door and a bed and a bed and a little dresser, or like a what am I trying to say?
Yeah, a
Yeah,
little drawer, yeah, that
yeah,
like bed, a chair, a little desk with some
yeah, a little
drawers.
desk. So you have a little desk. So they're very person centered, person friendly.
Definitely has, even though we had to decrease some capacity, it's definitely more calming and peaceful, and I think a better environment for one to kind of stabilize and to basically stabilize their mental health and their physical health there.
Yes. And then we've added what did we do? We lost a little bit of room, few rooms in the rehabilitation and the remodeling of that. But we also picked up 174 rooms at Delta Landing, which is a hotel that they bought. It was a Motel 6, and they purchased it, and now it's made into a shelter. So we're direct placement into that, and that's 174 rooms. Let's see. Any other questions? Laura said she had to call dispatch or police dispatch 5 times this week. Let's see. No questions in the chat. Lauren McLean says, yes, our city and county are pretty much in denial. No joke. Their approach in the past has been to bus people to the county line and tell them not to come back. We're to a more of a people friendly approach. We work with the people and try to get them into services here.
That's right. Like not every response is a police response, right? Folks they'll end up just leaving, they'll be back on the street. So it's really looking at the long-term care, right? Like the actual solution and wraparound services once we get folks housed, right?
Yep.
So somebody in the chat would like to know if core outreach is available beyond Contra Costa
No, we are
County.
only in Contra Costa County.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're only in Contra Costa.
And they would also like to know what if there are no shelters, no services, no mental health slash addiction services. So,
We always have access to the access line for the AOD, which is and other drug services. And if we use Ottawa County, if they're full and we can't get people into our county, we work with Alameda County and San Francisco County. So we'll take them anywhere as long as we can get them into a program or detox.
So,
mhm.
and just to kind of clarify, like, yeah, so we don't venture out of Contra Costa County, but if somebody is a Contra Costa resident, we can still access resources outside of Contra Costa County, which is just what you highlighted, Mike.
Yeah.
Um, and it could be challenging, there's 16 to 20 warming center beds night by night in Concord. So those are fresh beds every night, and then 20 in West County, which is in Richmond, and we have direct access to seven. So there are nighttime there are, but at the same time, like, those will fill up. So what we would do is, just be connected with those individuals and try to get them in as soon as a bed becomes available, if that's possible.
Mhm.
Laura
And there's
says,
a question. Go
Laura
ahead,
says,
Mike.
how do you grassroots something like this? So we started in January 1st of 2017 with 2 teams of 2, and we started partnering with the local cities like Martinez and Pleasant Hill and Concord and Walnut Creek to build teams in their jurisdictions, and they do the funding for them. So we went from those 2 teams of 2 to over 50 employees and on 19 teams right now, and 20 coming on.
Mike, you were the first ever outreach specialist with Doug that started, and I know we're running on time, but it is really incredible where we've came based on where we started. And how did Doug get started in the first place?
He just started doing outreach on his own and like just going out at night, filling like the whatever beds didn't get filled at the shelter. There used to be a hotline, and the beds would people would be on the hotline list for days, and then like when they finally get it, they call them and try to give them the bed, and they wouldn't accept it. So Doug and I would go out at night and offer those beds up and to people and that were available. So shelters were no beds were staying empty.
It's really just Doug just go you and Doug going out as citizens
Yeah.
to in whatever protective gear that you could have with donations until you got attention from local law enforcement and they really kind of like validated what you're doing. And then homeless programs. So Doug probably reached out to our current agency and said, "This is what I'm doing." And then it just takes an agency to say, recognize the value and say, this is something we want to apply to some of our grant money to make it a program, right?
Yes. Just that sounds like that's a good explanation.
So does that grant money get renewed on a regular basis, or
Yep,
is it?
absolutely. We have a lot of different sources.
Mhm,
And yeah, many of them are yearly. Some of them are every 3 years. Some of them are
mm,
one-off.
mhm,
But yeah, most of them do get, they do get renewed. Yeah, on a regular basis, we have to submit an application and, essentially progress and data outcomes,
mhm.
an explanation of what we're going to be doing. And yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think it's almost 2. We have like a minute. So any last words? And then we should send people on to the closing um,
Nothing,
speakers.
nothing more for us.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much for having us.
Thank you.